AI is going to change the world as we know it, but not as fast as some AI insiders think. Also, probably a lot faster than some non-techie people think. It's all a matter of perspective. And that's why we have Matt Rouse here today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself, why this topic matters to him, and why it should matter to you. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited. My name is Matt Rouse. I'm the co-founder of Hook Digital Marketing. We're an international marketing company based out of Arizona. I personally live in Nova Scotia in Canada, where I moved a couple years ago during COVID, which I would not recommend moving internationally during COVID time. I'm also the author of several small business focused books, and my latest one is Will AI Take My Job, which is how we got connected. And our company, my business partner and I, who merged our companies about 7 or 8 years ago now, we both came from an IT background working for finance and marketing companies. So what happened was we got this kind of cross section of technology and marketing at the same time. And that's allowed us to kind of have a glimpse into the AI world a little more deeply than kind of your average person, because we have the technical background, we both programmers and developers, as well as business owners and marketing people.
That makes a huge difference. Having that, we were actually just very briefly speaking about how, for me, I'm interested in AI. I've dabbled in AI. I have a good understanding of how to just use it for specific tasks.
Mm-hmm.
But that depth of knowledge that you bring to this type of conversation can make a really big impact into how entrepreneurs can use this tool to stay ahead of the curve, but at the same time, not be fearful of what might be coming next.
That's right. And there's a lot coming next, which is, I think the problem that a lot of people have is twofold, right? One of it is everything you hear in the news and stuff is hyped up and unrealistic for the most part. And the other side is you don't know what you don't know, right? People have a lot of blind spots, and those are both positive and negative blind spots, right? It could be something that is maybe, a danger or an impact to your company or your organization that you don't know about, which is important to find out. But it also could be an opportunity that you're missing because there's something there that you could be using that you're not using, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of twofold. And the idea is, how can we pull back the curtain so that everybody can have a basic understanding of what AI tools are and what they can do, as well as some sort of framework or structure so that you can determine what those things are and how to find them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said there about if there's something out there that would be beneficial to your business. I think the flip side of that is shiny object syndrome, right? When you see all of these really cool new tools coming out and you want to take part in all of them, you get a huge FOMO, right? But then you're using tools that actually aren't ideal for your business, and you wind up down a rabbit hole that puts you 3 steps behind instead of the 5 steps forward you were hoping.
You don't even need to use a new tool to go down a rabbit hole, because AI is going to be embedded in everything.
Yes, and we've seen that. We've seen that emerging. I start using Canva, and all of a sudden it says, hey, we can generate an image for you.
Right.
Oh, interesting. But now you have a whole new set of skills that you need to learn, which is prompts for AI in order to generate images.
Right.
So
it's also in Microsoft Copilot now. It's in your Gmail suite. It's in, all of those things now. All of your CRMs, sales target programs, pipeline systems, lead magnet generators, all that kind of stuff, all has AI built into it. And sometimes it's not even a beneficial AI built in. They just have to, because the CEO said we need AI in our thing. And I literally saw a program today that said, check out our AI feature. And you click it and it says, we've got AI features. No description, what it is, doesn't say why it's good, why it's beneficial. Just
love that.
We got AI. Hey, look at us.
That's actually comical. I feel like that should be in like some comic strip somewhere, because
you would think that's how it would work, right? It'd be like an old Dilbert comic or something about AI, right?
Absolutely, I agree. Now, I was actually going to ask you, what what have you seen then with all of these new and old programs emerging with AI? What are some of the really useful forms that you've seen put up that are, when I say useful, I mean kind of across the board useful for the majority of people, and then also controversial. Um, what are some of the things that have not been very useful? Like you said, this we have AI, but like there are some that actually say, "Here, we do this," and it can actually help. Can you give me maybe some insights into those two categories?
So I think trying to shoehorn your business processes into an AI system is the wrong way about it. And that's what a lot of people try to do. What you need to do is determine what are the things that I have to do on a day to day basis that are repetitive, something that could be done, by an intern or an assistant of some kind, because a lot of times that's where we're at with these AI tools in their current kind of iterations. Is they're like a really really broad knowledged but not specific assistant, right? Especially when you're talking about something like a chatbot like ChatGPT. Also, I think there's an important, and we can talk about other tools and stuff first, but I think the chatbots are probably the thing people are most familiar with
Mm-hmm.
is ChatGPT. Using ChatGPT like in Bing, or like if you're just using the free version, is kind of like the playground, and the paid version like GPT Plus is like a serious tool, right? You're looking at a tool that's probably the paid version. I think it's $20 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Thereabouts.
yeah, we've done some testing, and a lot of it's pretty subjective, because I mean, how do you really scale like say this creative writing is this much better than this creative writing, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just from the sizes of the model and the way that the things are put together, from the stuff that we've been able to piece together from interviews and things like that, it's about 10 times more productive. So if you're using the free version and you're saying I'm not getting a good result, it's probably because the free version's not good enough, right?
There you go.
If you look
That
at something like
alone
Claude
is
2
great
compared to Claude
information.
1, right?
Yeah.
And uh, there's other AIs, right? There's Claude, there's Stability, there's Pi, there's Bard, there's Gemini, and then you've got open source models, and you've got Wizard, and you've got Llama 2, and I mean, there's a whole bunch of them, right? And now the average person, though, they've heard of, maybe have heard of Bard, but pretty much have only heard of ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
But ChatGPT, the paid version, is still the most powerful commercially available one. So that
Yeah.
may change a week from now, but for now, it is the one you should be using.
That's.
The Go ahead.
I was just thinking. That's broadly speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's because there are some sources that you may want to, let's say you're just doing video content. There are
Sure.
going to be some resources that are a lot more effective than ChatGPT, but broadly speaking, ChatGPT is paid, is where the majority of entrepreneurs will get the best bang for their buck, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay, I
say
just wanted
say
to make
you
sure.
are using video content.
Mm,
This is a perfect example, right? So say your business, either you're a social media marketing company, you're a marketing company, you're a small business, you got to produce content out there to get out on the Instagram and the Facebook and all the different places, and your TikTok and such, right? So you need video. So you're out shooting some video, whether you're doing it with your phone, you got a DSLR, whatever. You're generating video. What we use our process for is we'll shoot the main video that is the topic, right? Kind of in
mm-hmm,
this format, right? The 16:9 type kind of YouTube format.
mm-hmm.
And then we'll use an AI system to transcribe it. And we use a program called Runway ML. Now, Runway is a video generation program, but we use their transcription service because it puts YouTube time codes in,
Ah,
which is a really important thing because none of the other ones do that. So when it puts the YouTube time codes in, you can upload that straight into YouTube without any editing, right? And it's pretty accurate. You might have to change, maybe get somebody's name wrong or something like that, right? But you fix that stuff.
yeah.
But we also use that transcript. We translate it And then we have transcripts in English, Spanish, French, and you can do like 70 something languages just with GPT-4.
That's amazing.
If it's short, if it's longer, you're going to have to split it up into pieces. But another thing that you can do is you can run it through Google Translate and then tell GPT-4 to check it, say, is this accurate? You know.
So I've never done translate in GPT-4. So you're saying that its translation capabilities are considerably more effective than Google Translate.
If you just say translate this, it's going to give you a word for word kind of translation.
Mm-hmm.
But what we usually do is we say, I want you to translate this, but I also want you to make sure we're using the phrasing and the structure of the native language. So
Right.
then it might change something. Like a good example would be in French, you have the adjective after the noun.
Mm-hmm.
So if we use that prompt where we tell it to use the structure of the language that we're translating to, it'll take our things where we say the adjective before the noun in English, and it'll switch it in the French
Good.
version.
That's actually really good because I mean, as you're living here in Canada, and I'm a native Canadian, and that's something that even native Canadians and bilingual Canadians sometimes struggle with when they're mentally translating is
Right.
word for word versus dialect driven translation, right? Like, so that's
Absolutely.
actually really good tip for anybody who's working in a multilingual situation and wants to use AI to help them with that.
Doesn't
Now,
have to just be multilingual. Now, what if you're in English, but you're producing content in the United States, but you're going to send it out to Canada, and you're going to send it to the UK, and you're going to send it to Australia?
right.
Now you've got differences in spelling.
Uh-huh.
You've got differences in maybe some of the colloquialisms that people use and stuff like that. So you can ask it to translate those for you. So you can translate English to English, except in a different kind of dialect of English.
That actually makes perfect sense. I was just recently doing a Google Doc share with a Canadian friend of mine after doing a project for an American friend of mine. And I had written honor. I think it was honor.
Right.
Pretty sure it was honor. And I wrote it in the American way. And she goes,
Right.
can you please change that?
Right.
Said, yeah, sure. And you had to go in
Put your
and change
OU
it.
in there.
That's right. You got to stick
There's
to
also
you.
words that are spelled correctly in English versus, US English versus UK or Canadian English, but they actually use short forms in American English. Like a good example would be drive through. They just
Yeah.
put THRU in the United
Right.
States instead of spelling out the word through.
Yes. I like that. Okay, that's really great tips for anybody choosing to create content using ChatGPT, especially the paid version. Now, that said, more people are using ChatGPT to create content. So, what are we seeing as trends in this area? Because there are a lot of people who are like, and myself being one of them, I see somebody post something and I'm like, that was ChatGPT. Like 100%. You can just tell. So, what are you seeing for trends in that area?
Well, you're getting a lot of people using it where maybe the content doesn't have to be 100% perfect all the time. And I like to say that the more important it is that it has to be accurate is the more time you need to spend editing. So if it's something like I just need to make a description of this, like a summary of this article and stick it on LinkedIn with my photo, I'm going to give it a quick once over, post it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's instructions for a medical tool where somebody's life is on the line, you better edit it, right? Like, well. So the more important it is, the more editing it needs, right? And you're also getting this sort of weird thing happening, and I don't know how weird it is, honestly, but um, and maybe you would agree with me that there's people in the world who like to take shortcuts, right, for their work.
Yeah.
So if somebody just, their manager says, hey, I want you to, write something about this that we're going to use, blah, 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 blah. They just go to GPT and they write it. And then the manager on the other end gets that and summarizes it and says to GPT, write a response to this. Basically, the AI is just talking to the AI at this point. The humans are just the ones transferring the email back and forth, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to see that kind of stuff. But I think you really need to be careful because what happens is the more you use the AI, the more you get used to it. And the more you get used to it, the more likely you are to believe it. And it's not always right. I would say the I mean, they call it hallucinations, right? When it says something that it couldn't find a fact, so it just made up something,
Mm-hmm.
right? It creates a fiction that sounds plausible.
Yeah.
And that's because they're essentially prediction machines, right? It's trying to predict which tokens go with each other token. And a token could be a word, a number, a syllable, a part of a word. And all it does is string all these tokens together. It's not alive, it's not conscious or anything, right? It's like a fancy parlor trick.
Yeah.
So if the tokens of the fiction are more likely in its database than the truth, it will give you the fiction. And it'll happily give you the fiction and tell you it's true, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have any intention. It's just trying to predict, right? So you really need to be careful of that, because the more people use it, and there's actually been a couple studies done on this already, like fairly recent ones, where the more people use the system, the more likely they are to believe the outcome and the less they are to check it.
Mm,
So you want to be
right.
careful that you're not getting used to it so much being right that you never check it, and then next thing you know, you're sending out some kind of conspiracy theory as fact or something.
Yeah. It's almost like it lulls you into a false sense of security and allows
Right.
you to just kind of flippantly go out there and say, yes, this must be true because my computer friend says it is. No,
Yeah.
that's actually really good tip, just to be really mindful and intentional, and maybe um, critical about
Mm-hmm.
everything that you're interacting with in the AI world. Now, that said, one thing you said to me that I felt really kind of resonated with how I receive AI generated content that I know is AI generated but posted by a person is
Right.
that idea of it's not alive. And so when you receive that post, that you're on social media and you're following somebody, you think, yeah, that's a pretty cool person.
Right.
You receive that post and like it's created by something that is not alive. And that you've recognized the trends that say that was written by a computer. What does that do with your relationship and a marketing level? Another business owner posts this. How can you form a relationship with that person? And how do we navigate around that to make sure that culturally we're not mistaking these very real and meaningful professional relationships for truth? Like it's
There's
complicated.
no relationship built when it's obvious that it's a machine written piece, right? It would be the same as, how do I trust a bot written post on Twitter X 5 years ago, right?
Right.
And you just don't, because you know that it wasn't written by a person, right? And just because it was written by a machine doesn't mean it's not true, right? So there's also that fact.
Mm.
I think people would be surprised at how many of the newsletters and things that they receive, especially ones that have like news and kind of summaries of things in them, are AI generated now. Like, I was at Traffic and Conversion Summit in Las Vegas last week, and a few of the speakers were talking about newsletters that have, you know, 50, 100, sometimes over 1 million subscribers that are
Mm.
100% AI generated.
Right.
And those subscribers don't know that it's AI generated, right?
Yeah.
If you're using the technology well enough, no one would know the difference. But on the other side of the coin, are you really connecting with people if you're using 100% AI generated content? And I mean, it depends how important that is to your audience, I guess.
Right. And that was something that we kind of stumbled upon in past conversations, is this idea that, when you're perceiving, when you're actually at least somewhat aware of the fact that what you're consuming is AI generated, even if it's really well done, like you just
Right.
described, even if it's really, you have an awareness that this is AI generated. We briefly talked about this yearning for human connection that comes from the awareness of computer-led content generation. Can we talk about that for a moment?
Sure. So you also have this sort of, you have the opposite problem in some cases. Like, well, let's just get this out there, because I know somebody's going to ask this question. And because someone always asks this question, is what about AI detectors?
Right.
AI detectors flat out don't work. Okay. An AI detector, in several repeated studies already, there was just one out of Wharton University, where it's more likely to say that someone who wrote something who has English as a second language was an AI writer than an actual AI writer. Usually what it detects is people who don't properly understand the ins and outs of the language they're writing with. And the problem with that is that a well-trained and prompted or guided AI system will not make mistakes that an AI detector will find. So it's only detecting people who aren't great at writing,
Right. And that's not fair,
or a
really, in the end.
older or worse version of an AI.
Hmm.
And the other thing you want to keep in mind, and I know some people probably heard this before, but the AI you're using now is the worst AI you're ever going to use.
Right.
So next month's AI is going to be a leap ahead of the one you're using right now. Like the GPT-4, I believe, is trained up to now August or September of 2023, which was only a few months ago. And
Yeah,
when you
that's me.
used it 6 months ago, it was only trained up to like July of 2022. So it has a year, almost an entire year worth of more data in it just in the last few months. It's only been 14 months since GPT was released to the public. So,
That alone is mind blowing, because there are
right,
so many people who now just consider it to be a day to day. 14 months isn't a long time. If I'm being honest, I had 2 kids within the span of 14 months.
right. That's
So this is
not a
that's
lot of
really
time.
crazy.
And the thing about AI that I think also is something that's hard to wrap our our primate brains around is that it's not an exponential technology. It's actually a double exponent technology, because you can use the technology to create more of the same technology, right? So the programmers working on the next version are using the previous version so that they can make the new one faster. The
I
same thing
love that.
happens with Moore's law with computer chips, right?
Yeah.
The people who are using the next generation computer chip that you haven't seen yet are using that chip to build the future generation chip that you haven't seen yet. It's like when you buy the brand new Intel chip off the shelf, the people are not building the next one. They're using the next one to build the second next one that you won't see for 2 years from now, right?
This
So
is like techception.
it is. So there's this, and then you're going to get to a point where the AI can improve the AI by itself. And once that happens, I don't even think that we have a commonly used mathematical term that people would understand for how fast it would grow, right? But again, we don't know if there's kind of a wall that's going to get hit or some kind of
Right.
limitation. There may be a limit in what it could do that we don't know about. I mean, these things are all unknowns right now.
And that can be both scary and empowering at the same time, as a functional human being, because now you're saying, okay, well, there could be a limit, which means that I therefore must have a limit, right? But then
Right.
if there's no limit, that's just like staring at the sky and understanding how far the universe reaches,
Right.
multiverses, right? And so it can be scary and inspiring in both ways. That's interesting concept.
Yeah. And I mean, the weirdest thing is like, it's hard to explain exponential technologies because our brains are not used to that, right? If we see like someone running across the horizon and they're speeding up as fast as they can, they will slowly get faster and faster and faster. But if it was exponential, by the time they got halfway, they would disappear because they would be gone for the rest of it because they traveled so far so quickly. It's like the idea of lily pads on a pond, right? It doesn't matter if it took 50 years to get half the lily pads on the pond, the next generation will fill the whole pond
Yep.
because exponentially means the same thing again, right?
Right. It's like the
And
opposite of having a half-life. You
right,
just, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Now, that said, I had all these ideas about, like, how can we use AI in our day to day? What does this impact? How does it impact entrepreneurs and just the general populace? But we are running out of time. So what I want to ask you is, on those notions, on these more grand scale ideas about AI integration within our day to day, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with the audience that might spur some more conversation and keep this very real, very important conversation going outside of here?
I think one of the biggest things is that because the technology is going to grow so quickly, it's really important to get to start using it now and just kind of get a feel for how it works and how you can use it in your business. there's some very basics that you can do, like summarizing a document. Like a good use I had the other day is my insurance company sent me an updated PDF of whatever my coverage is, and so I put it into GPT and said summarize this for me, and it told me what my insurance coverage is without me having to read 27 pages. You can also use it to summarize emails or survey results, or so the summarizing capability is really good. You can upload a document, like if you're an e-commerce store, grab all your sales data, upload it into GPT, and ask questions about it. Now you can like talk to your spreadsheet like it was a data analyst, right? And
Mm.
that's something that most business owners didn't have access to before. And you can use tools like Opus or Get Munch or something like that that can take a video like this and it'll cut all your vertical video clips out for you and caption them. Right? So there's all these tools that can save you tons of time and do things maybe that you just didn't have time to do before. Like, I mean, I really like the insurance one because I'm not going to read that, but I really kind of want to know what I'm paying for. And so, it's nice to get that. Um, we've used it to draft legal letters and then run them past our attorney, and things like that. Like just stuff that you could do to save time and look at the processes and the things in your business that take up a lot of your time instead of the thinking, creative, important work that you should be doing that's going to move your business forward rather than the grinding work that is maybe a bit of a drudge for you to get done.
That makes perfect sense. And don't forget, everybody, that we have an amazing author here. Go ahead and tell them a little bit about your book, Will AI Take My Job?
Sure. It's called Will AI Take My Job? Is what it looks like. Yes, I used an AI to create the cover. I also used an AI to summarize each chapter into the main takeaway points, but it was 100% human researched and written and edited. And it's predictions about AI and corporations and small business, as well as education, medical, other kinds of industries. And I think the most important thing is just to get a nice, quick overview. You can read it on a short flight or on a weekend, um, and you'll have an understanding, probably better than 90% of the population about what AI is and how it's going to affect different industries. And there's some things in there where you can get some strategies to figure out what you should do with AI, how you can research it more, and how you can protect yourself or your business or your job from being disrupted by AI tech.
That's awesome. And you can find that on Amazon, and the link is in the show notes. So please do not hesitate to reach out and get your own copy. Now, with that, I want to thank you, Matt, for being on the show. This has been a really invigorating conversation and has opened a lot of doors to different possibilities with AI that even I hadn't really explored, despite the fact that I dabble in it often just for play. So, that said, everyone here, don't forget that we have conversations just like this every week, most of the time, 2 times a week. So make sure that you subscribe, like, follow, all that jazz to make sure you do not miss a single one. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Find that book on Amazon and read it because tomorrow is going to be a pretty interesting place.